Stop death.
Welcome to the Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls preview panel. Your panelists are Josh Mosquera, Kevin Martins, Stephen Wong, Jesse McCree, Joe Shelley, Julian Love, Tim Lin, and Zavin Harutunian.
Hey, how you guys doing? Are you guys ready to face death? Awesome, so am I. Isn't that cinematic just awesome? Gets me really psyched to be here. My name is Josh Mosquera. I'm the game director, and it's a great honor to be here with you guys today to show you some of the cool new things we have in store for you guys for Reaper of Souls. We have a great panel for you guys today, but before we get into the meat and potatoes of Reaper Souls, I want to take a few moments to talk to you guys about what Reaper Souls means to us. What are some of our high-level goals we had when we started the project? And for us, it all starts with epic heroes. Whether you're the barbarian, or the demon hunter, or the monk, or the brand new crusader, your knight in battle-scarred armor, you guys are playing heroes that are bigger than life, and you're facing the forces of darkness. In Reaper Souls, we're celebrating the dark, gothic heart that is at the root of Diablo. And we have a slew of new monsters for you guys to kill and loot. And Joe and Julian up here are going to talk to you guys about how our monsters are designed. They live to die. But we're not only introducing new monsters, we're introducing a brand new villain to the world of Diablo in the form of Malthael, the Angel of Death. And Tim and Zavin are going to talk to you guys about Pandemonium, the final battleground where you guys are going to be confronting Malthael and trying to stop death. But we're not just stopping there. One of the most important goals for us is we wanted to make sure that there was an end game for everyone. We wanted to make sure that you guys had many different options when it comes to how you play Diablo 3. So not only are you going to have a great story mode, where you're going to see the story of Act 5, the fall of Westmarch and defeating Malthael, but we're also introducing a brand new way to play Diablo 3. We're introducing adventure mode. And to do that, I want to ask Kevin Martins, our lead game designer, to come on stage and talk to you guys about adventure mode.
Hello, Blizzcon. It's nice to have you all back in beautiful Southern California. So who's had a chance to play adventure mode on the demo floor today? Okay, so those of you who've had a chance to play it, I'm glad you have, and you're still going to learn a lot about how and why we made it. So what problem were we trying to solve? Adventure mode started basically as some core elements of the game that weren't working well together. So ultimately, Diablo is about getting awesome loot and killing monsters to do that. And we have these two things in the game that weren't working well together. On one hand, we've got this big, big world of Sanctuary, and we had it split up into 4 acts, basically. So each of the acts were self-contained. They had cool villains at the end of them, and we had this campaign mode, and that was good. But we also had you play through it 4 times in a row to sort of get to level 60 or to what the end game was. So on the other hand, we also have this big, complex randomization system. We have all of this content, and we have this game with these random tile sets and monster distribution that's random. And those two things didn't work well together. Playing that campaign over and over again and not taking advantage of that randomness was something that we wanted to make a lot better. So we put this core stake in the ground, which was go anywhere, slay anything. So under this idea, this is sort of how the beginning of adventure mode happened, how the genesis of this feature began. So imagine a world where you can start in the Festering Woods and do one of your favorite little side dungeons, have a good reason to do that, have that be richly rewarded. Then go do a boss in Act 3. Here's Gom in the Keep. Then go to Heaven, have again a good reason to go there, have this epic, awesome zone and want to go there, and be able to do that freely in one session without having to go out of the game to get back into the game again. So that's ultimately what adventure mode is. This is a brand new game mode. So that requirement that you play through the game linearly, that's gone. You can play when you want to. Not only, thank you. Endgame for everyone that Josh mentioned, not only is adventure mode an endgame, it's also somewhere where you can level up your character. So we have this awesome new campaign in Act 5, but you don't have to play that in order to get to adventure mode. Adventure mode is this new mode. You can play where you want to. So a lot of you are probably already familiar with this request because you've made it yourselves. Why don't we just unlock all the waypoints? So we went way beyond that. So this is a new map of Act 3. You can go to any act, you can go to any waypoint in it at any time. You can jump all over the game, up to and including Act 5. So adventure mode, again, is a separate mode from the campaign mode. That said, we've taken all of our favorite moments from the campaign, all of those story battles that you enjoyed, all the little side scenes, all of the events and the random parts as well, and we've combined them together into an adventure mode. So the story, essentially the quest, just gets out of the way, but it's still freely playable. Your character can go back and forth between the modes at any time. So the two features that adventure mode boils down to, the way that we deliver this to you, are bounties and Nephilim rifts. These are the sub-features of adventure mode. Bounties essentially are very simple. These are the tour guide through that world. You now can go anywhere. Bounties are the way that we suggest where you should go. So Steven's going to go through this in a lot more detail in just a moment, but essentially all our favorite parts of the game are given to you, and it's a rewarding way to play. Variety has become the most rewarding way to play. And then Nephilim rifts. Nephilim rifts are that promise of that randomization that we do, all those tile sets, all these monsters, all these technical systems to make the game as replayable as possible. This is that replayability writ on an epic scale. This particular example, here's Act 4 and Act 3 monsters fighting together in Whimsyshire. Notice the rainbows and everything. I like to call this Grimsyshire because it's dark and it's night. No one laughed at that at the office either. This particular image shows also that we have random weather and lighting everywhere as well, and that includes the hub. So you get to go see Chaldeum at night and other areas too. So that might seem like a minor thing from a feature point of view, but it does make everything feel better as well. So to go in a lot more detail on bounties, here's Stephen Wong.
So as Kevin just mentioned to you, we opened up the world. We opened up all acts and all waypoints at once, but it wasn't quite enough. When we were playing with it internally, we had some problems. Single player, some people wanted to have a little bit more guidance. They were overwhelmed by all the different options that were now available to them. And in multiplayer, a lot of times the party would get separated because there wasn't any one goal keeping the party together. So you'd have 4 different players off in their own corner of the world. So what we decided to do was bounties. And what bounties are random quests that are given to you at the start of the game, and they take place in all 5 acts, and they take advantage of all the different content that's inside of Diablo 3 and Reaper of Souls. Bounties will take you through all the bosses, all the events, all the side dungeons, everything that we've put into the game. Now we put a focus onto that with bounties in adventure mode. So at the start of an adventure mode game, you'll get 25 random bounties, 5 in each act, that you can go and complete. Now, we're not putting the game on rails. You can still do everything else inside of adventure mode. You can go wherever you want to, but if you opt into this, then you can go and do these bounties and collect your rewards afterwards. So let's take a look at some of the different bounty types we have. The first bounty type is killing a boss, right? So we've taken all 15 act bosses that are in Diablo 3 and Reaper of Souls, and we made a bounty for each one. And in this example, you're going to go kill Queen Aranya in the Spider Caves. So you'll find the entrance to the Spider Caves, go inside, slay your way through to the Queen's chamber, and destroy her, and you'll collect your reward. The next type of bounty that we have is completing an event. And in this example, it's in the Festering Woods, and you will go and complete the Last Stand of the Ancients quest that's inside of the Festering Woods and complete your reward. And this lets us put the spotlight on a lot of the different events that we have in the game that might be a little bit out of the way of normal gameplay, but now with a bounty quest for them, you'll go and find them and do them, and it'll add a lot of diversity and randomness to the game. Our third type of bounty is killing a unique monster. And in this example, we have a bounty for killing Mira Eamon, the blacksmith's undead wife. And you might remember her from story mode, where you'll go into the blacksmith cellar and take care of her because the blacksmith needs you to do this, and that's how you advance the story in the game. But what we've done in adventure mode is we've moved her out of the cellar into random distribution in the Festering Woods, and you'll go out, explore, find her, and kill her, and you'll collect a reward after that. And what we've done is we've taken a lot of the uniques that are in the game, uniques like Mira or Jondar, and we've put them into random distribution, and they're now bounty targets. Our last kind of bounty is clearing a dungeon. And this is our version of Diablo 2's Den of Evil. And in this example, you'll go to the Khazar Den in Fields of Mystery, and you'll lay waste to all the things. And you'll collect a reward afterwards. And what this kind of bounty lets us do is take you through all the different kinds of side dungeons that we have that, again, may be off the beaten path right now, but because there's a bounty, you're going to go do them, and you get experience, all that content that we've built for you. So I've mentioned reward a lot, and let's take a look at what you're going to get by doing bounties. So you're going to get golden experience, of course, and we want to make it worthwhile for you to be doing these things, right? Like, it should be pretty good reward for you to be doing bounties, right? You're also going to get access to powerful items. And lastly, you're going to get Rift Keystones. And to talk about what Rift Keystones are and what they open, here's Jesse McCree.
Hello, BlizzCon. I'm super excited to be here to talk to you about Nephilim Rifts. Previously, we referred to these as loot runs. And what they are randomized dungeons. So what we've done is we've taken all of the tile sets, all of the dungeons in the game, and we've organized them in new and interesting ways. So we've taken the cathedral, all the exteriors, and all the monsters and shuffled them up. So every time you do one of these, it's random. Since they're self-contained areas that you go into, we can do things in them we wouldn't normally do in the campaign mode. For example, we'll do combinations of monsters that you wouldn't normally see. We'll take monsters from different acts, and we'll put them together. We'll take multiple types of summoner and put them together, so you can get quickly overwhelmed if you don't deal with those threats. We'll play with monster density. So this is the place where things can get a little out of hand. And every time you go in, the monsters randomized, the number of monsters randomized, so every floor can be different. Some will be a little sparse, some can get really out of hand, for example, the picture behind me. So, like I mentioned, they're randomized dungeons, and what we've done is these are 1 to 10 level deep dungeons. In the game right now, the deepest we go is 2 levels, so every time you transition from one level to another, it can be a different dungeon and it'll have a different combination of monsters. And we'll mix up the type of dungeon you're going through. For example, we'll start in a cathedral, we can go into a root cave after that, go to a crypt, or you could have one level that's just a big exterior zone. Or you can go from exterior into a Zoltan Cool dungeon or something like that. So there's all kinds of different ways we put these together, and every time you do them, it's different. So, like I mentioned, these are self-contained, and we can do things that we wouldn't do in the campaign mode, like give you crazy buffs. So in the exterior world, we'll give you little buffs, but in Nephilim Rifts, we'll do things like give you AoE lightning that'll one-shot everything. We will give you no cast cooldown or invulnerability, and that really helps when you come across some of these really crazy populations that are hard to deal with. You get some really exciting kind of buffs happening. Now to cap off every Nephilim Rift, we have a boss. And what we've done is instead of fighting them in an arena, we actually spawn them in the dungeon with you. And this is more similar to D2. So you'll have to deal with the monsters that are in the dungeon as well as the boss that spawns. And these are random bosses. We've taken the existing ones and we've created new ones, and we've randomized their powers and abilities. And what I'd like to do now is show you a quick video of some Nephilim Rifts in action that you're going to play with the Crusader. right, so since it's a new expansion, we have a lot of new monsters, and what I'd like to do now is bring up Joe Shelley to start talking to you about those.
All right, so we've seen some new stuff from Adventure Mode, and now I'm going to talk to you about some of the new monsters we've got in Reaper of Souls. So let's start in Westmarch. In Westmarch, we've got the Angel of Death coming into a city and wiping out all its inhabitants. It's been laid siege to. And so we want to have monsters that tell that story by their design, by what they look like, and what they do. So first off, we've got the Summoner. Now, this is a monster that stands in the crossroads of city streets, defiles the ground under it, and raises ghosts up out of the cobblestones. Malthael's also sent in his Death Maidens. Now, these are his lieutenants. They wield their giant scythes, cut the heads off the Westmarch defenders, and reincarnate them as ghosts and skeletons to fight the player. Now we've got the Punisher. This is the heavy shock troop of Malthael's army. He leaps onto the screen, stuns enemies around his area of arrival, and beats his fists together, smashing them and doing tremendous damage. These guys all work together to tell the story of a place that's been invaded and overrun. And when the player enters, they're going to need to beat back these forces. Let's take a look at the player doing that just now. Pretty cool. So now we're going to take a look at some of my favorite monsters. We're going to do a little bit of a sneak peek. I'm going to show you some guys from the Blood March, one of the other zones. You can see here some of the concept art for the Boggin Trapper and Brute, which I'm going to talk about. But we're going to start with the Boggin. Now this little guy, he's my favorite. He rolls around, he's a little bit cute, he lives underground, and you're going to see a ton of these guys there. And he's part of a family. You might remember the Fallen from Act 1. Well, the Blood March has a family as well. The next member of it is the Boggin Trapper. He actually goes out and hunts. He throws bear traps on the ground to slow his prey, and he fires a little blow dart to incapacitate them. And then we'll look at the Boggin Brute. Now this is the king of the Blood March. He goes where he pleases. He kicks the other enemies out of the way. The little Boggets feel his wrath on the regular. And when we put these guys together, we've got a place that really comes to life and feels like a real world environment. Let's take a look here. Guys are persistent. So when we create a monster, we think about several different things. We talk about how they come onto the screen, how they spawn, what they do, and how they die. And we're going to get into how they die and what they do in a minute. But I want to talk a little bit about how they're introduced. And we had a particular dungeon called the Catacombs, which is a little bit later in the expansion. And we really wanted to create a feeling in the player of a deep, dark area that's foreboding. You get a sense of dread, and you never know what's going to be around the corner. So we took this little guy called the Scarab, and we said, well, could we just make him crawl out of everywhere? So you never know where he's going to show up, and just put a ton of these guys in there. You can see here the player wandering in. There's just a few of them at the start. But pretty soon there are a lot. That's a lot of guys. Now, thanks. What you may not have noticed there is the player actually walks through the scarabs. This is new technology that we got to allow us to put a tremendous number of guys on screen without making the player get bound up and stuck, colliding with them. Thanks. So to talk a little bit more about some of these guys and some of their behaviors, I'm going to bring up Julian Love, our lead technical artist.
That was a lot of scarabs, but was it enough? Or should we turn it up a little bit? All right, Blizzcon has spoken. So we're talking about our design philosophy, how we think about monsters when we're putting them in the game, looked a little bit how we do some spawns. The next big subject for us is what they're going to do, And in a game like Diablo, monsters really live to die. That's what they're born for. That's what they're there for. And, you're cleaning their clocks at a pretty regular rate, so they tend to not live very long either. So when we focus on what they're going to do, we have to make sure that we're going to do things that are really clear and simple. And we're also looking for things that are going to be memorable. We want behaviors that you can understand, okay? And we're looking for things that are going to change the way you play and sometimes make you just feel a little differently about that monster. So in the live game right now, we have a bunch of monsters, ranged monsters, that have this ability to back off from you. And so let's look at how that works right now with these archers. When they want to back off from you, they have to turn around and put their backs to the player and then reposition themselves and then turn back around and pick up their bows. And it makes them feel a little dumb. It makes them a little less threatening. It also means that they kind of don't really respect you as a player. I mean, they're turning their backs to you. How big of a threat are you, right? So we decided we could make an improvement here. And we've got a new capability that we call the back pedal. So looking at these same archers, as the player approaches them, they want to back off. But now they can just back up without changing direction. They maintain their eyesight is focused on the player, they're respecting the player, and they're a lot more threatening. It's an example of a really simple change that also affects how you feel about that monster. Now I want to head over to the Blood Marsh again and take a closer look at the Brute and Boggots. So a lot of monsters in the game can summon guys and throw them at you. But the Brute literally does this. When he summons Boggots onto the field, he immediately throws them right at you. This makes him really aggressive as a summoner, which is usually not the case. But it also underscores the savage relationship between Brutes and Boggots, which is a great reflection of life in the Blood Marsh. And we really like the fact that they're interacting. This is really something different for us. So we thought maybe there's an opportunity to do more with that idea. So I'd like to introduce the Terror Bat. Now the Terror Bat has a really cool behavior. He can pick up Boggots, raise them into the air, give them a rabid bite, and transform them into Brutes. And the Brutes can then spawn more Boggots. Boggots can get turned back into Brutes by bats. This has a real interesting effect on gameplay. It creates a vicious circle. When you walk on screen and you see, oh, hey, there's a Brute right there, I gotta worry about that Brute. But then here comes a bat. Uh-oh, what's gonna happen? He's gonna make more Brutes. He's gonna make more Boggots. You gotta manage that stuff right away. Because we love you. All right, this is my favorite part, how they die. I think a lot about how monsters die, not just because we're weird. Well, maybe some of us. It's really important in a game where monsters live to die. Death becomes really critical, in fact. It's the culmination of your effort. It's what you're doing, right? It's what they're there for. It's when you get your loot, right? It's really important. And the thing I think that is easy to miss is that it's a great opportunity to tell some story, either about that monster or about something in the world that's going on, or even it's a great opportunity to draw the player further into the game world. And I have an example of that in the Realm Walker. Now, the Realm Walker is a giant beast that you can find in the Forgotten Battlefields. And he's guarding a portal that he carries around on his head. And he uses that portal as a weapon against the player by spawning in monsters from another realm. And spoiler alert here, you get to kill him, right? And when you do, he's just gonna overload and a bunch of energy and explode, because we like to blow things up. And he loses control of that portal, and you can jump into it, and then go to that realm where those monsters were coming from. Really big spiders. Okay, here's another example from the Blood Marsh. We looked at trappers earlier, but what you might not have realized is, like, what a bunch of jerks these guys are. Here they are, they're in this guard tower, they're all holed up, they're super confident, they're dropping traps on you, they're peppering you with darts. They think they've got it made. It's not really the case. You're gonna take them out. You're gonna deliver some justice to these guys. But not any kind of justice will do. We want some poetic justice for something like this, right? So when you take the tower down, they get dismembered by their own traps in a giant bloody mess. Let's watch that. Yeah. Okay, the last thing I want to focus on today is how important it is that we make monsters that you can understand. We want monsters that you can relate to. It makes them so much more interesting to kill when you can understand them and you know what they are. So I've got some examples of some behaviors that we give monsters to help you understand them. And here is a great rag to riches story in a monster that we call the Exorcist. You can find this guy in Westmarch. He's one of Malthael's crew. Now, when we first started working on this guy, we got this idea, well, what if he just dropped like a bunch of evil stuff on the ground that would chase you, and your job was run away from it. And it worked okay, but we think if you're gonna run away from something in a Diablo game, you should understand what it is. It should be familiar to you. You should get it. You should see why it's dangerous. And this just wasn't hitting it. It was just too abstract. So we took this guy back to the drawing board. Let's give him some new abilities, something that you can really get. So now he charges himself up into a being of ultimate lightning power and blasts you with lightning energy. And the reason why this works so much better is because you can completely get this idea. This guy, he's bristling with energy. You get that dark skeleton in there, which is a Diablo kind of thing, right? And then the lightning is something that everybody understands. That's a monster that might be worth your time, might be worth running away from. All right. So here we have the Westmarch Hound, another monster that you can find in Reaper of Souls. Yeah, we looked at him and he looks like a bulldog, so what should he do? Right? He should do things like a bulldog does. And they like to chew on stuff, right? So we thought, well, what if he treats the player like a chew toy? And when he gets done with you, you're like covered in dog slobber and it's really gross. But here's the thing. That's not the only dog behavior we thought of. Let's see what happens when the Westmarch Hound kills the player. Oh my God, we gotta see that again. One more time. So humiliating. All right, that wraps up our look at monsters for Reaper of Souls. And now I'm going to kick it back over to Kevin Martins, who's going to bring us all up to speed with a new area called Pandemonium.
All right, so it's very hard to top that, so let's just switch gears completely. What we love to do at Blizzcon specifically that we don't do anywhere else is talk a lot about philosophy, about why we make the decisions we do, and about our process. How do we make things? So We want to show you a lot about Pandemonium and reveal the zone, but let's talk about how we make areas using Pandemonium as the example for a second. So we have to ask ourselves a few questions, just like when we're making a monster. For areas, the most important one is, what is the fantasy? Why is it awesome just to walk around in this zone? If you saw a screenshot or a clip of the video, you'd be like, I want to play there. With Pandemonium, it's fairly obvious. If you don't already know what this is, Pandemonium is the eternal battlefield. This is where the angels and demons fought their eternal conflict. At different times, this chaotic, ever-changing area, it's been held by the demons, it's been held by the angels. It has elements of both, and it's this place that sort of is beyond human understanding. The races that inhabit it are not humans, and they don't work like humans. That's a very interesting thing in and of itself. You can tell that we wanted to take you here for a long time because we keep showing it to you. If you remember, in the Diablo opening cinematic, the angels are pouring down onto the forgotten battlefield. The demons are coming up, they're holding it right now, and like, yeah, let's go there and kill things like that, right? And we also had this teaser piece called Wrath, which we did about a month before Diablo came out. Same thing, again, angels and demons fighting in that battlefield. So it's been years that we've wanted to go there, and finally we have a chance to do that. Why we waited so long is that we have this idea that, especially in expansions which are more self-contained than the bigger game like Diablo 3 was, you want the villain and the area to fit really well together and the player to have a good reason to go there. So Pandemonium is a great fit for a number of reasons. But the second question we have to wonder is, where does a zone fit into the game? So there's a few different things like what we mean by that, and one of them is literally, where does it fit? Like, what zones are before it and after it? In this case, the story and its placement meant a couple of things that were really important. We began in Westmarch. Westmarch was a big bang opening. Death comes down to Sanctuary and wipes out the most powerful city that's left on Sanctuary in nearly an instant, and you, the player, have to go and stop them. It's really hard to trump that. So we had to find some way that in this rising action of the expansion, that somehow Pandemonium felt grander and bigger than that. So it was the end zone, of course. And it's not just the end as in it's the final zone, but it's the end of humanity if you don't succeed. Malthael is here. This is this place that he's familiar with. It's his territory, and this matters for a few different reasons. This place is beyond humanity. It doesn't matter how crazy we things got on Sanctuary. What happens on Pandemonium can be even crazier. Again, that eternal battle that happened there and all that war stuff that other races other than you have done, that's what can make this interesting, no matter how big and grand we've made Westmarch. So the fact that Malthael is here matters a lot as well. When the battle ended, and we call this the Forgotten Battlefields now, the eternal conflict moved to Sanctuary, and it sort of became this guerrilla conflict where humanity was caught in the middle and angels and demons were fighting on Earth. So Malthael, he was the leader of the angels at the time, and he saw this happen, and he saw humanity, something that he thinks is an abomination that shouldn't exist. Humans are a combination of angels and demons, and now he's seen this enormous capacity for power that you, the player, have shown. You guys defeated the primeval, something that he's never been able to do in the eons of battling that he's done. He's also seen characters like Zoltan Kuhl, these incredibly powerful humans who choose to do evil. So ultimately, his solution, at the time he was the Angel of Wisdom, he became death, and he's going to wipe out humanity so that he can wipe all remaining traces of demonic essence out of the world and supposedly live in a world where there's only angels left. So he's here, and if you don't stop him, he's nearly already succeeded by the time the game has begun. So it's a very intense zone, and that's how we were able to trump Westmarch, which we also made as intense as possible. So keep this backstory in mind and this intent of having this zone end the game, and we're going to run you through exactly how we made the game. So, Tim?
All right. Thank you, Kevin. So before we started working on the Forgotten Battlefields, the first thing we did was we had a brainstorm with the artists. And so I'm going to show you a few of those brainstorms now. This first one, what we really liked about it is we liked the dark atmosphere that it had, and we liked the idea of this river of souls flowing from this dark, sinister-looking orb. All right, this next one, this is a throne room at the core of Pandemonium. We really thought that this image did a great job of depicting the nexus between heaven and hell. All right, we like the otherworldly feeling of this shot. One challenge that we have on Diablo, though, is sometimes things feel a little bit too futuristic. Though we thought on this shot that the
massive stone, floating, war-torn structures really helped ground the image. All right, this one is a much more traditional rendering of a battlefield with ancient titans in the background. We knew, though, that if we added these giant remains to the battlefield, it would really give the environment a sense of epic scale. All right, okay, this is one of the prototypes that we do. These are awesome, these are fantastic because they allow us to add monsters to them, they allow us to add lighting and quickly look at when we're building a level. If you look close, you can see that this one was kit bashed together in about a day with existing Zoltan Pool art assets. We like this one because we felt it kind of felt like a building graveyard. All right, now we've warped. We've warped way ahead to the first shot you're going to see of Pandemonium. This is where you're going to start your journey. As you can see, we took some things from the brainstorm. We took the floating ideas, we took the otherworldly ideas, and we added it to the level. All right, now we've reached the heart of the level. You can see that we've added some primitive angelic architecture up in the left-hand corner surrounding one of our new hazards for the zone. So Evan's going to talk about that in a second. Okay, so the level is slowly ripping apart. It's been ripping apart over the eons. If you look close, when this video starts again, you're going to see that we've added the dead demons, the huge petrified demons, to the edges of the level. Give it that epic sense of scale. All right, now we've reached the climax of the level. The fortress walls, the entrance is in front of us now. Malthael's domain is behind those walls. And this is where you're going to have to fight your way in. So, fight! Now we're going to give it to Zaben to talk about the gameplay in the level.
Thanks, Tim. Okay, so when we first started building our exterior zones in Reaper of Souls, we knew we wanted to make some changes compared to how we did them in Acts 1 through 4. Now, the exteriors in those acts are fairly fixed, they're very static. The interiors are slightly randomized, and we really wanted to change that up for Reaper of Souls. So to that end, we've made fully randomized exteriors, and Pandemonium is one of those. So as you can see here, these are just, So these are just basic renderings of the mini-maps of the entire level. You can see that the location of start and exit completely different between the two. The shapes are very different. We actually have the interiors of the zone also fully randomized, all of them, not just little bits and pieces. We got these nice organic edges that are, again, fully randomized every time you play. And we also completely randomized direction and flow through the zone. So that means every time you play the zone, whether it's in story mode or adventure mode or even Nephilim Rifts, the zone is random every single time you play. And inside this random zone, you guys already seen our Realm Walkers. We have a few other treats in here. We have abandoned garrisons. These are ancient fortresses the angels built to ward off the demons. And inside, these are abandoned, so the monsters that have taken over are not necessarily what you'd expect. They're not angels or demons. They're a completely other type of monster. We also have these battles frozen in time. When the angels controlled this place, they set traps everywhere to just imprison the demon hordes and lessen the numbers that were coming through. But the player can now go in, smash the trap, and kill all the demons and get all the loot. You also have deadly hazards just spread all throughout the zone. This was a very contentious battlefield for heaven and hell. So here the angels have laid traps all throughout to stop the demons, but now you're the bad guy to Malthael, and you're going to have to contend with all of these on the way. So we've got the fully randomized zone, we've got a whole bunch of cool content inside, and let's see how it all comes together. Let's see the zone live in action with some actual gameplay. right, I'm going to pass this back off to Josh. He's going to wrap this up.
Thanks, Evan. So what do you guys think? Yeah? Dude, we're so excited. We cannot wait for you guys to try it out. You get a sneak peek right now here on the show floor, but really looking forward to you guys getting your hands on Reaper of Souls. As you can see, we crammed a lot of features into it. I think there's more features in Reaper of Souls than there's loot in the Treasure Goblin. So we're really looking forward to you guys playing it. But right now, I want to take a few moments to say thank you. You guys are the most awesome fans. You guys help us make the game better. And thank you for coming along on this awesome ride. You know, Reaper of Souls, the shutting down the auction house with the Crusader, the darker, more gothic Act 5, Adventure Mode, Loot 2.0. We're really excited about what the future has in store for Diablo 3. So thank you guys, and here's a final treat, our gameplay trailer. Spoilers. Apparently we're gonna do the Q&A first. But maybe we can possibly see the video. Awesome. So before the Q&A, I just want to let you guys know that we have a very awesome lore panel later on today. And tomorrow we're doing a deep dive into a lot of the gameplay systems. We're going to talk about the Crusader, Loot 2.0, and a lot of great new skills. But before we get out of here, I'm sure you guys have maybe one or two questions. All right, how are we doing this? Oh, wait, there we go.
How you doing? So what's going on with the ladder system?
Ladders. Ladders are awesome to climb. A little bit more. They have rungs, right? And the whole point is to get to the top, right? So stay tuned.
So with the closing of the auction house and everybody buying and selling gold, what do you plan on doing to affect the flood of gold that's going to come into the market just before the auction house closes?
So I can take this. So the question was, what are we going to do about all the gold that's in the economy, essentially? Okay. We have a number of new gold sinks coming, and again, the gameplay panel tomorrow is going to go into them very specifically. One of the big ones is enchanting. Transmogrify is not a major gold sink, but enchanting is the system that allows you to re-roll any stat on your item, essentially, and re-roll it to make it better for yourself. And that's a smart drop roll as well, so it's very likely to be good for your character, and you can see all the potential things you can roll. So that's a major thing. We've got new new and better blacksmith recipes coming, also smart drops, so when they do roll, they're again much more likely to be better. Things like that, and those are just a couple of the big features for gold sinks. So we do intend to find ways to get some gold out of the economy. And the balance that we have to do is we don't want to make it so that if you're not already one of the people with 40 billion gold, that for some reason you can't participate in that. Just people with 40 billion can probably, they pull the slot machine a little more often. But ultimately, gold is not going to be as big of a delta factor for character power as it has been when the auction house was live.
So first of all, awesome.
thank you so much. You guys are breathing new life into this. It sounds amazing. My question, though, is so you now have this full open adventure mode. Are all the previous areas going to be designed like those maps that you brought up prior?
All acts will be available through adventure mode, so every act is going to have a map just like the one you saw for Act 3, and it'll be all waypoints opened up for you to just bounce around.
I think when you guys get into Nephilim Rifts, that's really where we, full throttle on the whole randomization. So the layouts are going to be totally different. That's really where we leverage the awesome engine we have.
Hi, thanks. I actually enjoy the game, but I've had one issue. No offline mode. When are we going to get it?
No offline mode. Awesome. All right. So here's the thing. When we decided to design Diablo 3, we feel, and seeing all of you out here kind of is a testament to that Diablo plays best when you're playing with your friends, when you have access to this awesome community that is Blizzard, right? That's why we have BlizzCon. And we felt it was really important for us to have that social connection, for you to be able to have access to your friends list. It also allowed us to make sure your characters are always stored, and it was really important for us to really satisfy that social aspect of the game.
In fact, we're adding more multiplayer features. So groups and clans were teased in the trailer there. So those are coming in as well. And that's a feature that makes being online even better. So I think that we can try to make that the fact that it is always online a more satisfying experience, even more so than the rich join and drop co-op that's already out there.
Hello. Not so much a question, but I just wanted to say, as a hardcore player, I thought death couldn't get any worse, but that dog, oh my god, that is going to be horrid. Thank you.
Thanks, Julian.
You are welcome.
Can't touch it, right? All right. How you doing? Hey, Josh. Hands like this today? Right. So, with the removal of the auction house, I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but now in a public forum. With the removal of the auction house, what, if any, sort of sanctioned or whatever sort of trading model will or will you not put in place to protect people from everything that happens in Sanctuary, not just from evil monsters?
So right now we're still in the process of really figuring out what trading means for Diablo. Obviously there is a social component that we still want to retain, but at the end of the day, it's kind of fundamental to our Loot 2.0 philosophy that we feel that finding items in-game by killing monsters should be the most rewarding, the most satisfying, and the best way to get your hands on those items.
Hey, bosses are always typically static, just waiting for you to walk into the room before they start fighting. Have you thought about making them move around in the hallways, making people really think about before they get into a big battle?
I don't know, Jesse, have we?
Hello? All right, so in Nephilim Rifts, that's exactly what happens. When a boss spawns, it is in the level with all the monsters. You have to contend with everything. So if you're fighting a champion pack when one spawns and he's right on your head, you have to deal with all of that. Yeah.
Greetings! What are your plans for revamping PvP?
Revamping.
Will it require that I own the new expansion to do so?
So, PvP is something that, a week doesn't go by without Steven here asking me, what are we doing for PvP? And it's something we're always talking about, and we're really trying to figure out what is the right way to express PvP. What does it actually mean? How can we make it fun? And it's something that we have hopes for. But for Reaper Souls, our focus has been on the core gameplay loop, the epic heroes against the forces of darkness with a promise of epic loot. So we're starting with the fundamentals. Once we feel we have those really solid, then we can start asking the fun question of how we get you guys fighting each other.
anything? Any ideas?
So you guys added backpedaling to monsters. What about keyboard turning?
What about new keywordings, did you say?
Keyboard turning.
I'm sorry.
You added backpedaling monsters. What about keyboard turning monsters?
Keyboard turning.
Just a
Sorry,
just a fun
it's-
question.
It's echoey up here. I literally can't understand the word. Keyboard turning monsters. Oh, okay. That's actually a question for Steven.
Are you talking about input and using the keyboard to control your?
We lost them.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
Try. Hi, so I had a question about what you're going to be doing about unique items, just like the best loot in the game, because right now it seems like you have a lot of items with cool effects, but it seems like the stats just trump any of those effects. So like when I'm playing something with a cool effect drops, but it's like, oh, this doesn't have my primary stat, this doesn't have enough crit, I'm not going to use it. So what are you going to do about like giving us items that have cool effects and that are optimal to use so that we actually want to use them?
Right. Okay, so lots of different things, actually. So just a few of the things we're doing. Once again, we're giving a bunch of examples tomorrow at the gameplay panel, so I'll answer the question anyway, but please come tomorrow and you can talk directly to the item designers in more detail. We are narrowing the range on things. So for example, if you could have a hammer that could roll 1 to 500 strength, at the upper tier, that's narrowed to 300 to 500. So even if you got the minimum roll, it's still a pretty decent item. The legendary effects on the new legendaries are all somewhat game-changing. We're trying to give them, wacky things they do that changes perhaps the way that you change one of your existing builds. We have a Witch Doctor mask, for example, that causes Horrify to not just fear monsters, but to root them as well, so you get a major crowd control effect. If as a Witch Doctor you hadn't used Horrify before, you're probably going to want to now. For example. So, we have a lot of things like that where we're narrowing it, we're smart dropping it so that your primary stat for your character class that finds the item is much more likely to be rolled, and so on and so on. There's probably 3 or 4 other smart drop systems we can talk about tomorrow.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, my voice. Thanks for such the fantastic game. My question is, at the beginning of the first act, there are so many of the side dungeons that just, so many of the side dungeons that make, the side dungeons that add variety to the game, but then that tapers off towards the end of the game. Almost maybe you ran out of development time or whatever happened. Is there anything that you're going to do to add more of those in, or do you have any additional plans to freshen up the first 4 acts of the game?
Okay, so basically the question was, as you get towards Act 3 and 4, the amount of side dungeon density lowers. That's for a couple of reasons. At the end, especially in Act 4, we really feel that players at that point, after the big reveal, they just want to get to Diablo. So it became a little more narrowed and centered inherently. But we recognize that that's an issue, and that actually is where adventure mode comes in. When we talked about earlier that people were playing the game over and over again, part of it was that you had that goal. You wanted to kill Diablo in your current difficulty level. That was actually encouraging you not to bother with the side dungeons, because that slowed you down in getting to your goal, ultimately to Diablo and Inferno. With removing that requirement and making these side dungeons bounties, we've taken everything, every nook and cranny in the game, and we can give you occasionally a good reason to go there to increase the variety. So all the side dungeons we do have can now happen in a much more varied order. So yeah, when you're in heaven and you have a few bounties to do there, we're going to make sure you see some side dungeons there, and then we're going to send you to other acts to do other things. So I think that we'll be addressing your concern really well with adventure mode.
We're about out of time. This is our last question.
Firstly, thank you guys for all your hard work and for such an amazing game. My question's more on the architecture, maybe with the always-on stuff with hardcore. I've lost a few characters personally to just a little bit of lag spikes or hardcore just timeouts. Is there any architectural improvements possibly coming that'll help fix that? I know you guys helped with rubber banding, but can we expect anything else with it being always on and us having to be connected and possibly losing characters that way?
Yeah, we're constantly like looking at those situations on a regular basis. Gameplay programming is reviewing each and every report we get on subjects like that. QA is hammering on it. We are adding server capacity in different regions. Asia, for example, is having issues with that, especially Australian players. We're trying to address issues like that too. So yes, we're conscious of that, and we're doing everything we can to solve issues like that.
All right, thank you guys. See you guys tomorrow at the panel.
You're watching Blizzcon 2013, an original DirecTV production since 2008. Level up to DirecTV at directv.com.
BlizzCon 2013 continues live here on DirecTV. That was the Diablo 3 panel, and now we've got more gameplay, more Blizzard, and of course the guests coming right by our stage now to answer your questions. Josh from the Diablo team will be live on the BlizzCon stage to tweet us your questions, because the fans get to play the games, you guys at home get to watch them and talk to the developers. And we've got much more coming up live across all of BlizzCon, including the contest a little bit later, hosted by comedian Jay Moore. We've got the talent contest and the costume contest. Those are a lot of fun, and those are coming up, but we've also got a Heroes of the Storm panel that'll be coming up in about 15 minutes. But Kat, lots more still for Blizzard fans.
There was. I mean, it definitely was a lot of information that we had seen already at Gamescom, but many people didn't see the Gamescom panel, so this is the first time they're seeing some of that footage. Definitely in the Q&A, you saw people going deeper. I'm looking forward to more Q&A in the gameplay system panel tomorrow.
That's right. There are two panels for this, and even though Blizzard's told us a lot today, tomorrow you're going to get more information on Diablo and a lot of the other panels. There's a big Warcraft movie panel, and of course the final concert with Blink 182, and we'll be bringing that all to you guys who have bought the virtual ticket around the world for the rest of today and tomorrow. So, Kat, we've got Josh coming by to answer questions on the new Diablo expansion.
We do.
That's being shown. Are they showing it on? They're showing it on PS4. Are they showing it on PC too?
PS4 and PC on the show floor.
All right, cool. It'll be fun to see what that looks like. Now, one thing that a lot of people have been wondering about is obviously the new Crusader. Talk about that. So we've got a really cool feature that's going to tell you guys more about the Crusader in Diablo 3. Check it out.
When we go to make a class for a Diablo game, we sort of focus on a few different things. And the main one is, what is the fantasy? What makes this class awesome? Why do I want to play this? For the fantasy of the Crusader, it's all about a war machine made human. We took the idea of like a modern battlefield tank where they're heavily armored, where they have ranged abilities, and where the armor is part of their weaponry. And from that, we came up with the idea of the Crusader.
We asked ourselves, like, what is really missing from the Diablo 3 class kit right now? And what we came down to was a melee character with a big shield, this kind of holy knight and battle-scarred armor.
When the Paladin Order was first founded hundreds of years ago in the world of Sanctuary, a small offshoot of the most elite warriors were the Crusaders. Now that a star has fallen and now that death itself has come to Earth, the Crusader has arrived to save the world.
He's got a combination of classical armor that take advantage of cloth, and you can see that stuff kind of flowing off some of the shoulder pads. We've got sets that are your more dark age steel and iron armor sets. We've even got one set in there that's really on the nose, kind of nod to the D2 Paladin.
We use the Paladin Order to kind of give him a grounding in the universe. A lot of people remember the Paladins fondly, so we wanted to bring some of that forward, but realistically, this is a whole new class with a whole new set of abilities.
When you look at the roster of heroes in Diablo 3, there's definitely a hole there that needed filled, in the sense of, where was that gothic medieval knight? And here was the opportunity to bring him in.
We wanted to bring that back, but we also wanted to give something to people that is completely new. We wanted to focus on the heavy, heavy armor, the big shield, the flail.
We went with flails because they sort of speak a little bit to his ability to hit things that are far away from him, but really, they just look really, really mean. I mean, there's nothing about a flail or a morning star that looks friendly.
Here's this brutal weapon, a spiked iron ball on the end of a chain. There's few things as barbaric as that.
No one can stop death.
Like, there's no way you could ever have this medieval knight standing there without a tower shield to stand behind. So we gave him a Crusader shield, which is unique and only he can wear it.
You see this in movies like 300. You see it in fight scenes with Achilles in the movie Troy. We tried to bring a lot of that into the Crusader and make the shield not just something that you hide behind, but something that actively is engaged in bringing holy wrath on the enemies of humanity. Our Crusaders live in war. They are always fighting. The crusade never ends.
He's a war machine made human. He's an immovable object, an unstoppable force.
The Crusader is that gothic medieval character with the twist.
BlizzCon 2013 is presented by Audience, DirecTV's premier entertainment network, home for the smartest and most daring shows on television. Audience, DirecTV, channel 239. All right, we are back here live at the BlizzCon stage with Kat, and Josh is joining us to talk about Diablo 3. Josh, congratulations. Got to say, this is, I think, the first Blizzard game I know in recent memory that you have showing it on 2 platforms. You're showing it on PlayStation 4 and PC, and that's amazing because I think people always thought the console was going to come afterwards. But are you guys literally co-developing this on both systems?
So, really awesome to be here at BlizzCon showing PC and PS4.
Yeah.
But our philosophy has always been, we start with PC, make sure the PC game is really solid, and then we leapfrog to the next platform. So right now, really focus on the PC.
Yeah.
And so right now, we're not planning to releasing them at the same time, but we really want to make sure that the PC game is really awesome and that the PS4 version is as solid as we can make it.
Wow. Now, let's talk a little bit about the feature parity. I know I'm getting some questions already on Twitter between PC and PS4. Things like adventure mode and whatnot. Are we going to see the same game on both systems?
So the really awesome thing about what we're doing for Reaper Souls for PC and PS4 is the core features, Act 5, the Crusader, Adventure Mode, Loot 2.0 are shared across both platforms. And then we're also taking some extra time to add some console-specific features to the PlayStation 4 version.
Okay, so when you say core features are shared and console-specific features, does that mean that there are features on the PC that will be PC exclusive?
Yes.
Like?
Well,
oh my God. They like that answer, Josh. PC exclusive
well,
features.
For example, on the PC, we're connected to Battle.net, and we'll be able to have clans and communities and that so rich, so social infrastructure that is unique to the PC version.
So the Battle.net specific functionality is the only thing currently planned to be PC exclusive?
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, is the game going to come to Xbox One as well, like you did Diablo 3 for Xbox and PS3?
So right now, again, we sort of really focus on one platform at a time.
Yeah.
So we, right now, PC now starting to shift onto PS4. So right now, it's really awesome, right? We're BlizzCon, PC company, but there's a lot of people playing Diablo 3 Reaper Souls on the PlayStation 4.
Well, you get to see it a week before the system comes out, which is pretty cool that you guys have that available. Well, if you guys have questions for Josh, you can tweet us, and that's at Jeff Keighley and also at Cat Hunter. And we'll get your questions right to Josh. Let's take a look. We're getting some. Let's go right to some questions if you don't mind here. Let's see here. First one here comes from Ken, and Ken is asking, I just saw the Crusader vid, looking awesome. When can we expect some Necro love, especially since Diablo 2 expansions had 2 new characters?
Well, without giving anything away, there's no second class we're announcing. But the Necromancer does make a small appearance in Reaper Souls as one of the NPCs you'll be running into.
Okay.
So, but right now it's just the Crusader is the star
just
of Reaper Souls.
Okay, that's one class.
That's one class.
Okay.
The Crusader.
Right.
Fair enough.
I have a couple questions just to follow up from the panel. So at one point when someone asked you in the Q&A about ladders, you said stay tuned. So stay tuned for what? For a BlizzCon panel or for future announcements?
So right now we're just really happy to talk about the core features.
I
to get
know
people
you
super
are.
excited.
That didn't answer my question.
I know.
So it's not at the BlizzCon you're saying? You're
right,
not
not at BlizzCon. So,
Okay.
so you guys have to stay tuned post BlizzCon.
Okay, that's fine. That's all I was trying to figure out. Now I'm going to press you on one more thing,
All right.
which is the question about trading in game. I understand you're looking at the core functionality right now, but since these new legendaries are build-changing legendaries, specifically on the console, it becomes a little bit more of a concern. Smart Drop can only be so smart. they're going to want that specific legendary for their class. So is it something that you're looking into facilitating down the road when you have more time, is better trading between players?
So right now our whole philosophy for trading really revolves around two things. One, the social aspect of trading, that we still think is really important. But fundamentally we feel that Diablo is a game about fighting monsters, killing those monsters, and finding that epic drop for your class. So we firmly believe that fighting monsters in-game is the best way to get those items. But we're also adding a lot of different ways for players to get those items that they want. So with adventure mode, with bounties, with Nephilim Rifts, there's new ways for you to get the legendary you want, and the enchanting system that we've added to the Mystic allows you to custom tune that legendary so it's just perfect for your character.
So do you feel even with the randomization of enchanting that isn't present, is still a chance, it's not guaranteed, and smart drops still being a chance that it's going to be able to address players' custom building needs to their character?
That's a question that we ask ourselves all the time, and we really want to make sure that people feel that there's that hope that they're going to find what they're looking for. But we also have hundreds of different items, so you may not find the exact one you're looking for. You'll probably find one you didn't even know existed. It's probably been better than you thought the one you were looking for.
Fair enough.
Very cool. All right, more questions on Twitter. This is a question about the console version. Tony wants to know, this is a popular question, if we bought Diablo 3 on the PS3, are we going to get it discounted on PlayStation 4 for Reapers of Souls? Is it going to be a full game, or how is that going to work on PlayStation 4?
Right now we're still trying to figure out exactly how that all is going to work out. But the one really cool thing that's really important for me is that your awesome characters that you're building on your PS3, you'll be able to import them to the PlayStation 4, right? So you have your level 60 Witch Doctor on the PS3, you'll be able to bring them across to the PS4 version.
That's awesome.
That's great news. All right, fantastic.
I have a question here, something you guys have talked about before, but people may not be aware of. Will the new expansion have retroactive changes to the previous acts? So acts 1 through 4 are going to have the new skills.
He sent me the
obviously.
same question. Is that your question or his question?
Oh, he sent it to both of us.
Oh my! You see that they're tag teaming us, trying to get their question. That's the way to do it, right?
Smart move.
Guy. Exactly.
Smart move. So how many changes are we going to see in acts 1 through 4, basically?
So you'll see a lot of refinements that we've added, but really. Acts 1 through 4, I think the real thing that you'll see is when you roll up a new Crusader and you get to explore, so Acts 1 through 4, you'll hear a lot of the new dialogue we have for the Crusader, and you hear more of his backstory and what the whole history of the Crusader Order has been.
With the changes that you have in the world, especially the seamless integration between outdoor and indoor, that's something that you can't just easily go back and apply in the previous acts.
Right.
Okay.
Fantastic. All right, we got some more on Twitter here. This is from Jamie. Jamie wants to know, are you planning on combining Paragon levels between characters?
Absolutely. So one of the great new additions to the Paragon system is that it's no longer character specific, but account wide. So as long as you have characters gaining Paragon levels, all your characters will get to benefit from those Paragon levels.
So I have 2 follow-up questions on Paragon that people have been asking, and you may not have decided this yet, or maybe that's for tomorrow. But the first one is, how is Paragon sharing going to scale? Because your first Paragon level at lower levels is much shorter than when you get to higher levels. So how are those points shared?
So that's a really good question, though. So, and again, we're still in the process of figuring out exactly what the level curve is, and how often we're going to give you guys points. But the system designers have done a really good job of making sure that each of those points that you're spending to really customize your character really feel meaningful at your first Paragon level and at your 100th or 2000th Paragon level.
So is it going to be just a matter of is it going to be a set distance between Paragon levels no matter what level character you're playing, or is that still to be decided?
That's still to be decided.
Okay.
Fantastic. All right, well, we got...
I had one more follow-up.
Yes, go for it.
So if you're already Paragon level 100 and you start playing, and you're level 60 and you have to go to level 70, so you do not start leveling your Paragon again until you're 70? Are you on hold?
That's correct.
Okay.
Right. You don't start gaining new Paragon levels until you're at max level, which would be 70.
Perfect.
Wow. All right, let's see what else we got on the Twitter from some of the fans here. This is something everyone's been asking about games for PlayStation 4, but what's the resolution of Diablo 3 on the PlayStation 4? Is it going to be a 1080p game?
1080p game, and it looks fantastic.
How many? 60 frames per second?
60 frames per second.
Wow.
And again, we're still in the optimizing. We're still pretty far from release, but our goal on PS3 was to get as close to 60 frames as possible, and PS4 1080p 60 frames per second are the 2 stakes we put in the sand.
Wow, I can't wait to go see it then. That's awesome.
So we actually only have about 45 seconds, but this is a good question. What was one of the features that was hardest to get the team on board with, all these new features?
Wow, that's a great question. You know, we have an awesome team, and you know, when they see all the great stuff that we've been doing, they've got on board right away. And especially with adventure mode, that was a big departure, really moving away from the sort of linear replaying of the game over and over again to really opening up the experience. And there was a little trepidation that probably lasted about 35 seconds. Then everybody saw the potential, and we've been playing it non-stop at the office.
It really is amazing everything you guys are trying to accomplish. Legendary.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see what you and the team are doing. Well, it's great to have you with us, Josh. Thanks for spending some time. Great team you guys have there, you, John Haidt, and the whole group on Diablo. So we look forward to hearing more from you guys. I'm going to go over and play the PS4 version. But now we're going to have to go on to another panel. There's a lot of other games. There's 5 games out there, so it can't be all Diablo. We're going to head over to Hall D now to go to another panel on Heroes of the Storm, and that's what everyone wants to hear about. It's playable here, an amazing trailer this morning, a CG trailer. Now we're going to get into the game. Let's head over to Hall D now for the panel on Heroes of the Storm at Blizzcon 2013, right here on DirecTV. Enjoy it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Great.
Welcome to the Heroes of the Storm overview panel. Your panelists are Dustin Browder, Alan Dabiri, Sam Didier, and Chris Siggety.
Hello, BlizzCon.
Howdy.
Hello. So this is kind of a dream panel for me here. These are all the guys that I hang out in the office with all the time. We play board games together. We play Dungeons and Dragons together. So to get a chance to come up on stage and talk about the game we've been working on for the last couple of years is an absolute blast. We've got Alan Dabiri, lead engineer. We've got Samwise Didier, art director. And we got Chris Siggety, production director. All right, we're going to talk to you a little bit today about what we've been working on for Heroes of the Storm. So, Heroes of the Storm is a lot of different things. This is a big game. We've been working on it for a long time, but I'm going to try to boil it down into some sort of key points for you guys. It's about getting these Blizzard heroes into the game. It's about trying to create an environment where we can bring all of the heroes from all of our worlds into one single amazing game. It's about fun with friends, and this seems kind of obvious, I guess, but it's about playing with your buddies. This is a team game. We want to focus it on teamwork and working together as a group. And it's about these battlegrounds, these new ways to play games in this genre, new challenges, new strategy, and new tactics. And of course, for us, it's about paying homage to the amazing Blizzard community that really helped create and invent this entire genre of game. So, I don't know, what do you guys think? Like, for me, it really seemed like everything really exploded when Warcraft 3 came onto the scene. We had some really great stuff, of course, in Brood War and even before, but Warcraft 3, it seemed like everything just really took off.
Yeah, so from my perspective with Warcraft 3, the big changes that came that feed into Heroes was the editor. It was our most powerful editor that we'd released. And then the other side effect was the game itself. Warcraft 3 was centered on resource, a lot of game mechanics, different things that played into War 3, the game, and the community took this powerful editor and then started removing elements from it and doing things like tower defense games where all of the races had towers, but nobody, the game wasn't based on that, but they did. They made that game. And then AOS-style games came online. They really started taking away the resourcing elements and concentrating on going out there, creeping, and fighting hero on hero. So those are a couple of things that I think led into it.
There was also, Warcraft 3 was one of the first games that we made just a huge amount of art for. We had 4 races, right? Creating new art there. We had all these creeps. This is where Murlocs and Kobolds and all these things were created. And the fans basically took this game and said, that wasn't too bad, Blizzard. I think we can make a few games out of this ourselves. Thank you for that. But yeah, there was just so much to work with, and they weren't, necessarily hampered by any kind of, rules for one type of game or whatever. And they just made, these genres that are just, awesome now.
Yeah, I think it's also a testament to the editor how easy it was to be able to create a map. Part of it, just the game engine itself, it was so data-driven. It was for a bit of a selfish reason as well. At Blizzard, we're pretty iterative in our design, and so the engineers were always trying to protect ourselves, where every time game design changed their minds, they could basically do it themselves. And after a while, we realized that, wow, these are really cool tools. Map makers can make all kinds of cool stuff. And so we started adding features that we didn't even use in the game that map makers could make cool maps with it. And the rest is history.
All right, so how this all started for us is we wanted to make this, I know it's hard to imagine this, but think back to 2010 when we first put out Wings of Liberty. We weren't sure everyone understood how cool our tools were and how powerful the editor was. And we were a little nervous that maybe it wouldn't explode off the scene as much as we wanted it to. And looking back, it seems ridiculous. All the great games and mods that have been made inside the StarCraft 2 editor. But at the time, we were a little nervous. And so we decided we would try to show you guys what was possible inside the StarCraft 2 editor using our tools. And so we made this little game that would later become Heroes of the Storm. And we worked on it and worked on it. We brought it to Blizzcon, and you guys were very positive about it. And we left Blizzcon wanting to do more work on this game. And we went back to the office, and I think at the time, wasn't everything in this game just StarCraft?
Most of it, if not all of it, yeah.
Yeah, I think we had, did we have ETC for this one? I think that was it. Otherwise, or maybe not yet. Anyway, it was all StarCraft units. We didn't have any Warcraft units in it at all. Or if we did, it was very few. And I remember I went up to Sammy and we were talking about it, and we were trying to figure out, if we're gonna make this game, what universe are we gonna set it in? You know, should it be a StarCraft game? Should it be a Warcraft game? What are we trying to do? And we had this arcade machine in our space that we used to play a bunch of games on. We were waiting for builds. And it was branded with this kind of, they'd put all this crazy mixture of art on it. Was this one piece, or did they combine stuff together?
This is like art from you know, different times in Warcraft and StarCraft. Some of it's some of the BlizzCon art. But if you look, it's got, you know, we got Illidan on there, right? Kind of popular. We got Diablo on there. Protoss and Terran, Blood Elves, and the Murloc is on there. Always showcasing how we like to throw these cool, hardcore characters, but also have a little bit of the humor touched in there as well.
And then there was this other moment that happened maybe a year later where we were working on this game, and I was getting a little nervous. I was like, I don't know. Like, what are we really doing here? It seems kind of all over the place. I don't understand. What is the visual, creative vision for this game? And in my moment of weakness, I went to Sammy again. I said, Sammy, I don't know, man. What are we doing here? And he pointed to this poster hanging on our wall. And this
it's like turn around, dude. Check it out.
Yeah, it was right behind me.
Looks really good together.
There's this Wei Wang piece, I think, right? That he done specifically for BlizzCon. And so this was an example of how literally, weirdly, BlizzCon itself became the world in which we built this game. We were building it based on all this amazing art we had seen hanging around our office, hanging around the studio, that had come specifically for BlizzCon. All right, so that's what we're doing. We're making BlizzCon the game. We're trying to get all of these heroes all smashed together and create this game that has a lot of freedom to it and the ability to really do sort of crazy things and have any hero from any one of our universes suddenly jumping into this amazing battle. It was all sort of inspired by this map that we started with, and of course, all of this art from BlizzCon we'd had hanging around the office. And then the other thing we've been inspired by recently has been Hearthstone. And this is a game that we've been playing in the office just a little bit longer than you guys have, but it's been really geeking it up. I know, Chris, you've been playing a ton of Hearthstone.
Yeah, this is a great slide. I think Hearthstone is important to Heroes of the Storm because Hearthstone represents, they've done a really great job. Team 5 internally, I keep throwing these kudos on them because I think they've captured that fun and the essence of Warcraft in this card game really well. And we aspire to do that with Heroes as well. And we're on our way. We're in our alpha phase, but we're going to see more of that. The other thing that Hearthstone represents is an arguably crowded space. And I keep getting asked this question about, are you worried about the space that Heroes of the Storm is going into? And for us, I think it's been true for all of the games, but Hearthstone being the most recent to say, it's an arguably crowded card space. How are you going to go in there and play and have Hearthstone come out in there? And we're not even thinking about that. We're focused on making the best card game we can with Hearthstone. And I think that's the same thing here with Heroes. We want to put that Blizzard slant into this genre, into this hero brawler genre, and make it great. And so Hearthstone is an inspiration.
I think the other thing I love about Hearthstone is that you're looking at a game that when you first play it, it looks pretty simple. It looks like, well, you know, I don't know if there's that much to it. And then 100 hours later, you're still clicking away, trying to get as much damage done as you possibly can, trying to survive that next attack. It's just absolutely an amazing experience. And we really want to challenge the genre. This is the other thing we're trying to do. We want to try to provide something new for our players, some new strategies, some new tactics, some new things to do, so this game feels fresh and original, and it's like something that you would really want to check out, something worthy of your attention. All right, let's talk a little about Blizzard Heroes. I know this is a big part of what the art team has been working on for the last many months. Trying to get all of these amazing heroes into this game. Pretty cool. You want to talk, Sammy, about all the work your team has been doing for these heroes?
Yeah, like a lot of the questions I've been getting too is like, is it difficult to kind of make StarCraft, Warcraft, and Diablo all fit sort of in the same game? And the answer is really no. I mean, how many times, as an orc, have you stood next to demons, in Outland? We've been doing that for years. So Diablo's not really much of a stretch for that, right? So, we take a lot of the characters that we have, and with some of the Diablo characters, they're arguably a little bit more realistic, a little bit more dark and real to this world, kind of. And we sort of just ramp them up just a little bit into some of that comic book level that World of Warcraft has, where everyone's like, whoa, like super huge, comic book heroes and villains. And then StarCraft kind of falls right in the middle, where it had a little bit more, fidelity, the textures, the specular mapping, and all these cool art terms. But we sort of applied these to all of our characters, and they all seem to fit really well together in Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, we work together daily, but there's a sense of admiration looking across at the art that the artists have created for this game. It happens on other teams, but even within the team, it's still a kind of pinch yourself when you come to work sort of thing when you see the final results here that the artists have hit. And I don't want to build up egos anymore here, but anyway, it's great stuff. We're floored on a daily basis.
All right, so these are our heroes. These are the guys we're trying to create. Some of these guys have lots of lore behind them, lots of depth. These are heroes. People have a lot of expectation of how they're going to play. This is Arthas, the Lich King. This guy's got to be absolutely amazing. He's got to feel like you are in command of one of the most deadly villains to ever stalk the north wastes of Azeroth. Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Well, we got one sail over there.
So here's all of these different versions that we've had of this character over the years. And this is a real challenge, I think, for the art guys to try to capture the essence of this character into sort of a single vision of what they're trying to get done. And this is the version we have of this guy today.
So here is Heroes of the Storm's version of Arthas. And what's nice, for the Lich King! Yes. So what was kind of funny is, as Dustin was saying, we had years of concept material for this guy. We didn't really have to lift a pencil or push a pixel to help define this guy. The years and years of Blizzard artists doing this have already helped us. So what we did is take the iconic elements of Arthas, the Lich King crown, right? Frostmourne, the black armor with the skulls and the cool spiky shoulder pads. We took elements of every single one of the Arthas concepts and just sort of picked our favorite ones and put them all together, and now we have our Heroes of the Storm Arthas here.
So when it comes to the gameplay, we want to try to match what these guys have done with the art. So we want Arthas to be a slayer. This guy's a killer. He's really tough, and he can take a lot of damage, but he needs to have the powers to wipe out his enemies as well. And so we're putting a lot of abilities in the game that allows Arthas and encourages him to hunt down and kill his enemies. Arthas will actually steal the souls of enemies he kills, and they will follow him into battle. So you really want to be hunting down enemy heroes. We have an idea that we're playing with right now in Heroes of the Storm where you can choose your own heroic ability. And one of the reasons we do this is because these characters are so big, it's sort of hard to contain them inside one single set of powers. So we give you choices of multiple powers. So we've got Sindragosa, this giant frost-breathing dragon, undead dragon that will sweep across your enemies. If you don't like Sindragosa, you can choose to summon the army of the dead and lead all of your, frozen ghouls into battle as you attack your enemies.
As a little tribute to some of the Warcraft 3 fans out there, anyone out there, Warcraft 3, played it? All right, so nobody, so I'll explain. No, basically, if you check out this slide here, this is Prince Arthas before the fall. You notice he has Frostmourne there, but he's sitting there all beautiful with his long blonde hair, just looking all princely and everything. And that's one of the fun things about this game. Art-wise, we can even go back to some of the characters from the past or what they used to be and then, what they are now. So, Prince Arthas here, it's still Arthas, but everybody knows, he has a sort of a dark side of him about ready to come out when they see this skin.
Yeah, no spoilers, Salmon.
All right, let's talk about one of my favorite characters in the entire Blizzard multiverse, Elite Tauren Chieftain. Do we have any fans of ETC out there at all right now? Well, I know they're very famous, so it'll come as no surprise to you that I actually have 3 members of the Elite Tauren Chieftain here on stage with me today. 3 guys from this amazing band that often has these other bands close for you guys, right? You have occasionally some bands come by and they finish what you guys start. This has been a character that I think has been absolutely a wonderful part of the Blizzard universes. What do you guys think makes this character really work? What do you think makes ETC fun for Blizzard fans?
Well, I can't speak on whether it works or not because I know musically there's a lot to be desired. But as far as what we're trying to do with ETC and Elite Tauren Chieftain is capture some of the mirth and some of the fun that's always been present in Blizzard games, going back to Warcraft 2, clicking on your, orc grunt, trying to get to his piss lines and hear his funny line, and clicking on that sheep, 100 times and making it explode.
Yeah, actually, a sheep exploding is exactly what the band sounds like.
That's accurate. That's pretty much accurate.
Well done.
I wanted to describe it accurately, right? But that's the point of it, and whether it always comes across that we want that in Heroes of the Storm, and I think that's what this is speaking to, or what we're trying to do. So,
awesome. Well, here's ETC in Heroes of the Storm.
Something for the Alliance fans to kill whenever they see.
This character is absolutely awesome in game. He's a very high mobility kind of warrior character. He can move quickly around the battlefield. He's got the ability to heal himself if he gets in trouble. Since he's moving quickly, you can imagine he gets in trouble quite a little bit. So he needs an ability to sort of stay in the action and protect himself when he gets into trouble. He's also got one of the most fun heroic abilities in the game called Stage Dive. He leaps off from wherever he's at, he flies across the battlefield and lands at any other location. So he can absolutely surprise the opposition, appearing absolutely just out of nowhere to jump on the enemy. The other ability he has is Mosh Pit. And this is the ability to sort of rock out for a minute and have everybody nearby, all of the enemies, stop and have a little dance.
I'm just going to say that I think he has 2 more fans than the real band does.
once again, accurate.
All right, so you see we've got 2 heroes here, 2 warrior heroes, but they're very different heroes. Arthas is a lot slower, a lot tougher, and a lot about dealing out the damage, as opposed to Elite Tauren Chieftain, who can move rapidly around the battlefield and really bring the fight to the enemy. That's one of our big goals for this game when it comes to the design of these heroes, both artistically and in terms of how we build them in the game. We want all of them to be as unique and special and feel like you're playing as a different character as we possibly can manage when you sit down to play. All right, now I'm going to talk about this weird guy called Abathur. Abathur. You guys had a chance to play Abathur out there yet? You haven't. This is a pretty cool character. Now, here's the problem with Abathur. I got a video I'm going to show you of Abathur in this game, but it's going to move pretty fast. So I'm going to give you a little setup here on the screen. So we got Abathur. This is a guy who can jump inside any friendly hero. He can sort of ride shotgun with them, infest them. And when he's inside this other hero, he can shoot abilities off of his ally. Abathur can't fight to save his life. Abathur is an absolute victim. All he's got is these kind of jazz hand attacks. He got nothing. But he can jump in and infest friendly heroes, and then he's a real threat. So he's gonna be jumping all over the battlefield. The other thing you need to know about this match you're gonna watch here, this short couple of minutes, is this is on Dragonshire. And what happens on Dragonshire is you need to capture 2 obelisks, one on the top of the map and one on the bottom of the map. When you capture both obelisks, it opens up the Dragon Altar. And when you go to the Dragon Altar, you can tell one of your heroes to channel on the Dragon Altar and become the Dragon Knight. This is pretty bad news for the other team. The Dragon Knight is absolutely, totally destructive. You've only got a couple of minutes to use him, but he annihilates anything that gets in his way. So when we watch this clip, you're going to see Abathur manipulate the entire flow of battle to make sure that his team gets control of the Dragon Knight. I also say, this is not a pro match. This is not even a setup match. This is just one of the matches that we played in the office when we were testing this game to bring it to here at BlizzCon. And we just grabbed a bunch of these games and we put them together so we could show you guys what the game looks like. So sometimes the play might be a little awkward, but that's okay. You'll get the idea of what's actually happening in this game. So you can see Abathur there hiding behind the wall, as he should. Remember, jazz hands, he can't fight. And Abathur's gonna hide there, and then he's gonna make his move. So we're gonna start the video here in a second, and Abathur's gonna start doing his thing. So he's in this bottom lane, but he's actually watching the top lane. And you can see Roller Derby Nova there is moving around, and she's trying to push against these red players. She's trying to push against Gazlo the Tinker and against Volstad. She's getting a little bit of trouble here, and watch for it. There's the infestation. Abathur is now guarding her and gave her a little bit of shield there, which bought her a little bit of time to get back to this fountain so she can heal up. That's cool. Now Abathur's gonna focus on the bottom lane. Now he's down here, and there's the infestation. He just jumped into Arthas, and there, he got the kill. He just dropped ETC, giving his team the advantage in that bottom position. Now Abathur's moved. Where's Abathur? All right, Abathur's moved up to this top lane now. He uses deep tunnel ability to teleport across the map. And now, there he just jumped into Nova again. And he's gonna help her out. He gave her a shield. He's gonna fire a few abilities off of her there, and this whole presence of Abathur is scaring off this red team here, so they're backing away. So now this blue team's got control of that top lane. Down here in the bottom lane, Abathur's now watching again. Watch Vala, watch the white demon hunter there. And here comes Abathur. He's gonna jump into her, and there it is. He just jumped into her, and now she's gonna fire off a bunch of skill shots using her abilities, and Abathur's abilities are helping her at the same time. And they're gonna fight off against these 3 red heroes. There's really 3 heroes there right now. There's really Abathur and 2 others. Now, they don't like the look of this. Red's gonna back away, and now Demon Hunter and Arthas are gonna grab that bottom watchtower, grab that bottom obelisk. And look, the Dragon Altar's open. Oh, there's Abathur. He just used Deep Tunnel. He teleported into position. He's gonna channel on the altar, and boom, there's the Dragon Knight. In the hands of a skilled player, this guy is absolutely deadly. I don't know if that was that skilled a player, but he did pretty good. He manipulated the flow of events across the battlefield to get done what he wanted to get done to ensure his team's victory. Whole new crazy kind of hero for us in this game. All right, let's talk about some skins. This is the fun stuff. This is where it gets going, guys. All right, this is stuff the art guys have been working on forever. We got the usual stuff you might expect.
Yeah, okay, so this is, everyone knows Demon Hunter, right? Diablo. Her name is Vala. And we have a simple skin of hers, which we call the Vampire Hunter. So she's wearing her cool kind of Van Helsing gear. And it's just one of the color variants. We actually have a few color variants for her. I think we have a red one, blue, green, all these different kind of colors to a skin. So you may have another Vampire Hunter on the other team, but she might be wearing something else, a different color than what you're using. So just an example of one of the more simple skins we've done.
Then we got Diablo, of course. You gotta get a chance to play Diablo in this game.
Big red.
But then it gets a little more interesting.
Big blue. So this is who we call Lurkablo, which I like to joke around is the offspring of a Murloc and Diablo. It is the worlds coming together. But yeah, basically, this is just something that we wanted to do. There was no real lore behind it. It's not going to be in Diablo 16 or anything like that we know of. Depends on how popular he is.
Okay. All right, and here's the ETC. You've seen him before, and here's one of my favorite skins for him.
Yes. Anyone who was living in the 80s like we were will recognize the glam rock ETC. Oh, he's got the keytar. The key instrument of the 80s, and he's rocking the tiger stripe tights. He's got the pink bandana and high tops. This guy is so poison he doesn't know what to do.
I think this was the skin that convinced me that this will work. This will work.
This one did?
Yeah, well, there's a few others too, but when I saw this, I knew this game was for me.
I think this is the skin where I have that moment where I go, what are we doing? Like, really? Is this really happening? This is a real game. This is not a mod. This is real.
It's happening.
This is real, Jerry.
Yeah.
Going after this skin.
All right. We got Uther, classic-looking paladin character.
And what happens if Uther was in StarCraft? He's still a medic, he's healing people. But, he carried that cool Warcraft flair all the way with him to the Caprulu sector, So he's rocking the medic armor, looking damn sexy.
There it is.
Yes, Judgment Armor for Uther. So for on Hammer, this is probably one of the most popular armor sets for the Paladin, so it was the first one we did for him, so I think he's looking pretty darn good. No problem.
All right, so one of the big values for this game is fun with friends. It's a chance for you to play with your buddies, and this sort of affects the entire game design for this game. We sort of focus all of our decisions on this single value, and it sort of changes the game in a lot of different ways. We want to be able to get together with your buddies, put together a really cool, maybe sometimes a little strange, sort of superhero team, and go out and try to run over your opponents. One of the things we're trying to do is give you 20-minute games, and this has a bunch of advantages. First of all, if you're a disaster and you're losing, you'll only be losing for 10 or 15 minutes. But the other advantage to it is, if we try to play tonight and I'm running a little late and you start a game, and then I suddenly, hey dude, I'm here, I can maybe wait for the 5 or 10 minutes for you to finish. But if it was a longer game, maybe I would start a game and then you would finish a game. We would never end up actually getting together. So this is a really big value for us. Keep the game short so it's easy to get together with your friends and play this game as often as we possibly can.
I think it's also hit a little bit on the pacing that we want, and it's a fast actually get into the action very quickly, and by keeping to that shorter time frame, it's really helped the design keep that excitement constantly.
Yeah, you can get a few games in at lunchtime as well.
Totally. The other thing we're doing is team levels, and this has a bunch of impacts across the entire game. I think the first and foremost impact is you're always with your buddies. You're not ever trying to take anything from your allies. You're always trying to work together as a group for the common good. But it has a number of knock-on effects as well. I think one of these is support heroes. This allows us to have dedicated support heroes who aren't that good at killing much of anything, but they can totally support their team.
Yeah, I think that support heroes really follow my play style, and I really like what we've done so far with the different kinds of support heroes, where you can be a healer, you can be Tassadar, who does more shielding effects. You've even got Gazlo, the Goblin Tinker, who's got all kinds of map control mechanics. And having that team level aspect really allows me to do that. I don't need to be up at front killing everything. I can be back, defending my team, helping them win.
Now, as Alan was saying, that goes into our specialist heroes as well. Abathur would not work almost at all if he didn't have team levels to help him out. He'd have to be up front trying to fight off the enemy, and we know he's no good at that. And obviously these siege heroes as well, these other types of specialists who are designed to push against enemy armies and smash their fortresses, really benefit from this kind of change to the gameplay. All right, let's talk about Battlegrounds. This is where it gets kind of crazy. This is where we're doing some really fun new stuff. So all of us had the opportunity when we were working on Wings of Liberty to go out and talk to players all over the world, to talk to guys in the press, and we would show them what we're doing with the game. When we talk about the single player and the campaign experience, we would describe maps like this. We would describe maps like Redstone here, where there's lava rising and falling, and all of the resources are on the low ground. So you got to run down to the low ground, and the lava comes, and you got to run back to the high ground. You got to do this dance with the lava. You got to interact with the environment in a meaningful way. And inevitably, when we would pitch this and we'd say, hey, this is this cool thing we're doing with campaign, somebody would say, can I have it for multi, please? Please, multi? And we would go, no, you're not going to get that for multi, because this game was based really on, a lot of the great things that were done in Brood War. And it wouldn't have been right for the game to start inserting all these really crazy map mechanics. I think we did one version of this that we put out a few months after the game released, right?
Yeah, we had a custom map for it, Burning Tides, but we never put it into ladder or any of those kinds of things.
Yeah, it was a cool way to play, but it wasn't really core StarCraft. So when it came to this game, when we had an opportunity to do something brand new, we kind of remembered that feedback we'd had from the players and from the press guys that we talked to. We said, whoa, maybe we could do it. Maybe we could have some maps that got some kind of crazy mechanics on it, that have kind of a little story of their own characters, where the environment feels like it's a more powerful part of the battlefield, and you have to react to that environment. So we came up with this idea of the Nexus, and this is this collision of worlds where all of the Blizzard universes collide. And that's about it, right?
Yeah, basically we wanted to have a place that it would be okay if you saw a Lurkablo running around getting ganked by a prince, evil Prince Arthas and all that, and it wouldn't be something that, you would worry too much about. We want to make sure that this game is fun first and foremost, but we also know that these characters are very, serious and have a lot of lore based to them. So in the Nexus is where anything can happen. It's worlds colliding, and everything is true or not true depending on how you want to take it. So that's basically the Nexus.
All right, so we've invented these crazy battlegrounds that will hopefully really change the way you play the game and give you a lot of new opportunities as you play through. And we're going to go through a couple of these. And these are things that the art and design teams have been working very hard on together, often one inspiring the other. Sometimes design inspiring art, sometimes art inspiring design. And we want to create a lot of teamwork with these things. We want to provide you, again, with opportunities to play with your buddies and work together as a group to overcome the obstacles that we're putting in front of you.
We got Kerrigan on a wolf, dude.
Oh, yeah, crazy.
Queen of Blades riding a wolf. She's got wings. The Nexus.
All right, and we're going to give you new challenges as well, and ultimately new strategies. All right, the final most important part of this thing is variety. We want to provide you with lots of different ways to play, and we want to have the opportunity down the road to change up the game. One of the things we learned from StarCraft is how much different maps and changing maps over time could fundamentally alter the experience and really create a constantly moving target for our players where they're constantly challenged. And so as time goes on, we're free to take maps out of rotation. You can still play them in custom game, but they won't be there in the in the matchmaker anymore, and we put new ones in. So the game can kind of keep evolving with you. And if you guys give us feedback on one of these battlegrounds, you go, I kind of liked it when it launched, but now I'm done with it. We can just take it out and put in something fresh, something new. All right, let's talk about Blackheart's Bay. This is one of the maps that was largely inspired by the artist. The artist had done a bunch of pirate-themed stuff, a bunch of nautical-themed stuff, and we ended up building a map around all of these ideas. So one of your goals is to find the chests on these maps. They're going to spawn near the lanes. You got to find them and attack them. When you attack them, all these coins, all these cursed doubloons are going to spill out, and you got to go out and hoover those up and collect them. And you got to go find the cursed camps where there's these skeletons on the map, and if you kill them, out pops more candy. You can collect the doubloons coming from these guys. And then when you've got enough of these, you want to deliver these to Blackheart. You want to take them there and drop them off on his chest. Now, one of the things we love about the map is filled with treasure goblins. Of course, the treasure goblins are the other players. You want to find these guys when they're carrying coins, and you want to just kick the tar out of them and take all their money. And so this really changes the way the game plays because, if Sammy suddenly got, 8 gold coins, he's a target. At that point, I might be willing to die to take him to half health. Meanwhile, everybody else is going to gather around Sammy like he's the quarterback.
Thank you.
And try to, it's good job, guys, and try to get him to Blackheart where he can drop off those coins.
I think the thing that was missed there is just the fact when you do kill them, they go flying out all over the place, and so it's a spectacle in and of itself.
There's no pockets in the Nexus.
All right, and then when you collect the coins, Blackheart's Revenge is going to activate. His ghostly ship is going to turn to your side for a very brief but very devastating period of time. And he's going to start blasting enemy towns into ruin. So this absolutely changes the way you play the game. Whoever has the coins becomes a target. Doesn't matter who they are. Whoever doesn't have the coins is looking to get coins of their own. And you really need to find these guys, hunt them down, and take them out. All right, this is a crazy one we did pretty recently. This is the Haunted Mines. This is the idea of the map. Yeah, this is nuts.
I love it.
2 weeks before BlizzCon. Yeah, let's get this in.
It may have been a month, but it was
4
really
weeks.
quick.
Come on, Sammy. Jeez.
It was really short. We had this idea of doing a map that had an above ground and below ground, because why not? So we have this mine entrance, and when the mine entrance will open up at a certain point in the game, and then you can go down into the mine, and now you're underground. And now you're in a competitive PvP, PvE dungeon. And there's all of these skeletons down there, and you got to kill these skeletons and collect their skulls. There's also a boss down there. Man, there's a lot of team fights around this boss, I got to tell you. Like if we had a heat map, we would just see thousands and thousands of dead players around this boss because so many of the skulls that you want to collect are inside this boss. And he's pretty hard to fight, so a lot of players will gather on this boss. There's often a big team fight that results. There's all kinds of sneaky shenanigans with players who are on the losing team trying to sneak in a hero to steal the skulls before they get murdered. Absolutely an intense moment around this guy. Now, once all the skulls are collected, a grave golem appears for each team. Now, if I've collected 70 skulls, some of you guys have collected 30 skulls, I've got a bigger grave golem. And these grave golems are then going to move across the battlefield, focusing on enemy towns, enemy fortifications, and going to smash everything that gets in front of them. And now it's a choice, we got to attack and defend, Do I want to defend my grave golem and then maybe try to attack yours? Am I going to switch? Are we going to split the team up? And this is where the teamwork becomes absolutely vital. Communicating with your allies is totally essential to figuring out who's going to go where, what's going to happen, who has the best composition to engage a Grave Golem, who can deal with certain enemy